Police officer goes to say goodbye to her dog, but notices something strange and stops the veterinarian. The medical report landed on Sarah Collins's desk like a death sentence. 6 years of flawless partnership, countless successful missions, and now a piece of paper threatened to end it all. Sarah's eyes fixed on the damning words, "Inoperable tumor, euthanasia recommended." Max lay at her feet, his black and tan coat gleaming in the early morning light. The Belgian Malinois lifted his head, dark eyes tracking her every movement with the same intensity he used to track suspects. Nothing in his behavior suggested terminal illness. No lethargy, no loss of appetite, no signs of pain. Just yesterday, he had outrun 2 fleeing suspects in the warehouse district. "Come on, boy," Sarah whispered, her voice steady despite the storm raging inside her. Max sprang to his feet, tactical harness jingling, tail wagging with his usual enthusiasm. Sarah checked her uniform in the mirror, adjusting her badge. If this was to be their last day together, they would face it with dignity. The veterinary clinic stood like a fortress of sterile white and chrome, its modern architecture a stark contrast to the historic buildings of downtown Atlanta. The parking lot was unusually empty for a Thursday morning. Sarah noticed security cameras tracking their movement, high-end models, more sophisticated than what you'd expect at a typical vet clinic. Dr. James Mitchell met them in the reception area, his smile just a touch too practiced, his handshake just a fraction too firm. Officer Collins, right on time. He wore expensive cologne that couldn't quite mask another scent, something medicinal that made Max's nostrils flare. "I'd like to review the test results one more time," Sarah said, maintaining her professional demeanor. "The diagnosis seems sudden." Mitchell's smile didn't waver as he led them down the hallway. "Of course, though I should warn you, the images are quite clear. The tumor's location makes surgery impossible, and waiting would only prolong his suffering." As they approached the examination room, Max's behavior shifted. The change was subtle at first, a slight stiffening of his shoulders, a low rumble in his chest. Then, as Mitchell reached for the door handle, Max let out a sharp bark that echoed through the hallway. Sarah had heard that bark before, during a raid when Max detected hidden explosives seconds before they would have walked into a trap. "Max, heel!" Sarah commanded, but her partner's reaction triggered something in her mind. This wasn't the behavior of a sick dog. This was Max on duty, Max detecting threat, Max trying to tell her something crucial. Mitchell's smile faltered for a split second. He's probably sensing the other animals. "Shall we proceed?" Inside the examination room, Max's agitation grew. He positioned himself between Sarah and the veterinarian, his posture rigid, ears forward. The room itself seemed standard at first glance, but Sarah's trained eye caught details that raised questions. The cabinet locks were heavy duty, more suitable for a pharmacy than a vet clinic. A security keypad by the door required a code for exit, unusual for a regular exam room. "I'd like to spend a moment alone with him," Sarah said, maintaining her composure. "To say goodbye properly." Mitchell hesitated, his hand lingering on the syringe tray. "Of course, 5 minutes should be sufficient." His shoes squeaked against the polished floor as he left, and Sarah caught a glimpse of something in his back pocket, what looked like a police-grade radio. The moment the door closed, Sarah dropped to her knees beside Max. His muscles were coiled tight under her touch, but his eyes never left the door. In 6 years of partnership, Max had never been wrong about a threat. Not during the drug lab raid that earned them both commendations, not during the bank heist that saved 12 hostages, not even during that desperate chase through the port that shut down a trafficking ring. Sarah pulled out her phone, fingers flying over the screen as she accessed the police database. 3 K9 units retired in the past 4 months, all from the same clinic, all with similar diagnoses, all signed by Dr. Mitchell. Her heart pounded against her ribs as she dug deeper. The dogs had been among the department's best. One had recently uncovered a major drug shipment. Another had helped bust a money laundering operation. Through the window, she noticed a black SUV pulling into the back lot, its windows tinted. Two men in suits emerged, their posture and movement screaming security to her trained eye. One spoke into a radio similar to the one she'd glimpsed in Mitchell's pocket. A soft knock at the door made both Sarah and Max tense. "Officer Collins, we should proceed now." Sarah stood, her decision made. Max's warning, the suspicious pattern, her own instincts screaming. It all pointed to something darker than a tragic medical diagnosis. She'd learned early in her career that coincidences in their line of work usually weren't coincidences at all. "Just a moment," she called out, her mind racing through options. They needed time to investigate, which meant playing along for now. She crouched next to Max, pressing her forehead against his. "I trust you, partner," she whispered. "We're not done fighting yet." Max's tail gave a single, determined wag. As Sarah opened the door to face Mitchell, she kept her expression carefully neutral, but inside, a fire had ignited. Someone was targeting canine units, and they'd made a crucial mistake targeting hers. If someone thought they could eliminate Max without consequences, they were about to learn why this partnership was legendary in the Atlanta Police Department. Mitchell's smile seemed genuine as he prepared the examination table, but Sarah caught the slight tremor in his hands, the way his eyes darted to Max's tactical harness. "Shall we begin?" he asked, reaching for a drawer. Sarah nodded, her hand resting on Max's head. "Yes," she said quietly, "but not the way you think." Her phone buzzed silently. The database search had found something else, something that would change everything. The database file on Sarah's phone cast an eerie blue glow across her face. Mitchell's personnel file showed a pristine record, too pristine, no complaints, no disciplinary actions, not even a parking ticket. But there was something else, a 6-month gap in his employment history right before he started at the clinic. "We're going to need another consultation," Sarah announced, her voice steady. "I'd like to get a second opinion before we proceed." She felt Max press against her leg, his body temperature radiating through her uniform pants, a reassuring presence she'd relied on countless times before. Mitchell's expression tightened for a fraction of a second. "Officer Collins, I assure you the diagnosis is accurate. Delaying this will only cause Max unnecessary suffering." His right hand twitched slightly toward his pocket, where she'd spotted the radio earlier. "Nevertheless, it's my right to seek another opinion." Sarah stood her ground, one hand on Max's harness. The Belgian Malinois remained alert, his body angled between her and the veterinarian. "Of course," Mitchell conceded, though his smile didn't reach his eyes. "I'll have my receptionist prepare copies of the test results." He turned to leave, speaking quietly into his collar, a movement so subtle most people would have missed it. Sarah waited until his footsteps faded before pulling out her phone again. Her fingers flew across the screen as she texted her partner, Detective Rodriguez. "Need quiet background check. Dr. James Mitchell, Atlanta Veterinary Specialists. Priority. Something feels wrong." The response came almost immediately. "On it. Stay safe. Keep your GPS active." Sarah led Max through the clinic's sterile hallways, her trained eye catching more details that set off alarm bells. The security cameras were military-grade, with full rotation and zoom capabilities. The locks on the storage rooms used biometric scanners. Even the staff's key cards had encryption chips visible through the plastic. At the reception desk, a young woman with carefully manicured nails handed Sarah a thick envelope. "All of Max's records and test results," she explained, not quite meeting Sarah's eyes. "Dr. Mitchell also included his personal number if you have any questions." Outside, the morning had turned grey, thunder rumbling in the distance. Sarah helped Max into her police SUV, noting how 2 of the suits from earlier watched their every move. She pulled out of the parking lot, taking a deliberately wrong turn before correcting her course, using every counter-surveillance technique she'd learned. "You did good in there, boy," she murmured to Max. His ears perked up at her voice, and she saw his reflection in the rearview mirror, alert and healthy as ever. No signs of the terminal illness Mitchell had diagnosed. Sarah's phone buzzed with another text from Rodriguez. Mitchell's previous employment record scrubbed clean. Someone went to a lot of trouble. Found traces of deleted files. Need more time to recover them. Watch your back. She drove to their favorite park on the outskirts of Atlanta, a quiet spot where they'd spent countless lunch breaks. As Max patrolled the perimeter, their usual routine, Sarah began examining the medical records. Her years of handling canine medical documentation helped her spot the inconsistencies immediately. The X-ray dates didn't match the visit logs. The blood work results showed subtle signs of digital manipulation. A twig snapped behind her. Sarah spun around, hand instinctively moving to her weapon, but it was only a jogger passing by. Still, Max's posture had changed, the same alert stance he'd shown at the clinic. The jogger was taking an unusual interest in their patrol car. Sarah's phone vibrated again. This time it was a heavily encrypted message from Rodriguez. Mitchell's gap year matches major drug operation takedown in Miami. Their K9 unit was decimated by medical issues before the bust. Pattern matches 3 other cities. Call me ASAP. The pieces were starting to fit together, but the picture they formed was darker than she'd imagined. Sarah began photographing the medical records, paying special attention to the irregularities. A shadow fell across her phone screen. Lovely day for a walk, isn't it, Officer Collins? Sarah looked up to find one of the suits from the clinic standing a few feet away, his hand casually resting inside his jacket. Max's growl was low and dangerous, a sound she'd heard only when they faced armed suspects. I believe you have some documents that Dr. Mitchell would like to review again, the man said smoothly. There may have been some filing errors. Filing errors? Sarah kept her voice calm, though her heart was racing. Like the kind that got 6 Miami K9s retired 2 years ago? The man's professional smile vanished. Behind him, Sarah spotted 2 more figures emerging from the tree line. Max's muscles tensed under her hand, ready to spring into action. This can go 2 ways, Officer Collins, the man said softly. The easy way is you hand over those records, bring Max back to the clinic, and everyone goes home happy. The hard way, he shrugged, letting the threat hang in the air. Sarah's mind raced through their options. The park was isolated at this hour, both an advantage and a danger. Her backup was at least 10 minutes away, and Rodriguez would need more time to gather concrete evidence. But she had one advantage they didn't know about. The small camera in Max's tactical vest had been recording since they entered the clinic. Thunder cracked overhead as the first raindrops began to fall. Sarah's hand tightened on Max's harness as she made her decision. They hadn't become Atlanta's top K9 unit by taking the easy way out. You know what? She said, her voice hard as steel. I think we'll take the hard way. Her finger pressed the emergency signal on her radio just as Max launched himself forward, teeth bared and ready for battle. The first shot cracked through the air like thunder. Sarah dove behind her SUV, pulling Max down with her as bullets pinged off metal. Her mind flashed back to their first major case together. Another rainy day, another ambush, but that time they'd been ready. Now, with Max potentially drugged and backup still minutes away, they'd have to rely on every lesson learned from that day. Federal agents, the suited man shouted, though Sarah noticed he showed no badge. Stand down and surrender the dog. Sarah's radio crackled with responses to her emergency signal, but they were too far out. Her hand found Max's tactical vest, fingers brushing against the camera, still recording. Max's muscles trembled slightly under her touch. Whatever Mitchell had given him was affecting his system. Remember Miami, Sarah whispered to Max, whose ears perked up at the word. It had been their first case, tracking a suspected drug operation 6 months into their partnership. They'd uncovered more than drugs that day. They'd found an entire network of corrupted officials and law enforcement. The case that had made their reputation. The same case that had a 6-month gap matching Mitchell's missing employment history. Last chance, Collins. Another shot. Closer this time. They were trying to circle around the SUV. Sarah's phone buzzed. Rodriguez's message flashed across the screen. Mitchell was Miami PD vet, disappeared after investigation started. Angela Rodriguez wants to meet, says she has proof. Angela Rodriguez. The name hit Sarah like a physical blow. She'd been a junior veterinarian in Miami, the one who'd first noticed irregularities in K9 medical records. She'd disappeared before she could testify, presumed dead in the aftermath of the investigation. A memory surfaced, Angela at the Miami precinct, young and determined, showing Sarah files that proved someone was deliberately incapacitating police dogs. "It's not just medical records," she'd said. "Someone's erasing entire histories. My own brother—" She'd stopped there, tears in her eyes. Max's growl pulled Sarah back to the present. Footsteps approached from both sides. They were out of time. "Officer Collins?" A new voice, female, called from beyond the parking lot. "I have what you need. About Mitchell. About Miami." Sarah risked a glance around the SUV. A woman stood at the park entrance, holding a thick file. Even after 2 years, Sarah recognized Angela Rodriguez. She looked different now, harder, more weathered, but her eyes held the same determination. "Don't listen to her," the suited man shouted. "She's compromised." "Mitchell's working with Marcus Rodriguez," Angela called out. "My brother, the one you almost caught in Miami. He's eliminating K9 units across the country, clearing the way for his operation." The name Marcus Rodriguez sent another jolt of memory through Sarah. They'd tracked his drug operation across 3 states, always one step behind. Every time they got close, key evidence would disappear, and police dogs would mysteriously fall ill. "They forced me to help them," Angela continued, her voice cracking. "Threatened to kill me if I didn't verify Mitchell's diagnoses, but I've been keeping records." She held up the file. "Everything's here. Every dog they've eliminated, every operation they've compromised." Sarah felt Max tense beside her, but his trembling had stopped. Whatever they'd given him was wearing off. She thought of the camera in his vest, still recording everything. They just needed to get that file. "Angela's the one who contacted your partner," the suited man said, closer now. "She's trying to protect her brother. This is a trap." But Sarah remembered something else from Miami. Angela had tried to save those dogs, had risked her life to expose the truth. The report had mentioned a brother, a family connection she'd been willing to sacrifice for justice. "He's my brother," Angela's voice shook. "But what they're doing is wrong. Those dogs, they trust us to care for them. Mitchell's been poisoning them slowly, making it look like natural illness. Max was next. I couldn't let it happen again." A distant siren wailed. Backup was getting closer. Sarah had seconds to make a decision. "Max," she whispered. "Remember Miami?" The Belgian Malinois' ears twitched. It was their code word for split-second synchronized action, developed during that first case when they'd learned to trust each other completely. Sarah's hand tightened on Max's harness. The suited men were closing in, confident they had them cornered. But they didn't know about Miami, didn't know what Sarah and Max had learned that day about timing, about trust, about the perfect moment to strike. "Now!" Sarah burst from behind the SUV, firing 2 warning shots that sent the men diving for cover. Max exploded into action, years of training overcoming whatever drugs lingered in his system. He shot across the parking lot like a black and tan missile, heading straight for Angela. The suited men recovered quickly, weapons raised. But they hesitated, unsure whether to target Sarah, Max, or Angela. That moment of hesitation was all Sarah needed. "Max! Vest!" she shouted. Her partner responded instantly, grabbing Angela's file in his teeth and triggering his vest camera's emergency upload. Even if they didn't make it, the evidence would. Thunder cracked overhead again as the standoff reached its peak. Sarah, weapon trained on the suited men. The men, guns divided between multiple targets. Angela, hands raised, eyes locked on the file in Max's teeth. And Max, muscles coiled, ready to move in any direction. That's when they heard it, the distinctive sound of police helicopters approaching. The suited men's expressions changed from confidence to concern. They hadn't counted on Sarah's reputation in the department, on how quickly Atlanta PD would respond to a distress call from their top K9 unit. "It's over," Sarah said, her voice carrying across the parking lot. "The evidence is already uploaded. Make your choice." The suited men exchanged glances, calculations running behind their eyes. Sarah recognized the look, the same one she'd seen in Miami when Marcus Rodriguez's men realized they were cornered. Behind her, Max let out a single, sharp bark. It was the same sound he'd made in Mitchell's clinic, warning her of danger. But this time, Sarah smiled, because this time the danger wasn't approaching. It was about to end. The helicopter's searchlight cut through the rain as police cruisers flooded into the park's parking lot. The suited men melted away into the woods, but Sarah wasn't concerned about them anymore. Max had collapsed. "He's burning up," Angela said, kneeling beside the Belgian Malinois. "Mitchell's been using a new compound. It starts slow, mimics natural illness, then hits all at once." Her hands moved quickly over Max's body, checking vital signs. "We need to get him to my clinic. Now!" Sarah lifted her partner into the back of her SUV, his normally alert body worryingly limp. "How long?" "An hour, maybe less." Angela grabbed her medical bag from her car. "And there's something else. Another K9 unit is scheduled for treatment at Mitchell's clinic today. Officer Chen's dog, Rex." Detective Rodriguez's voice crackled over Sarah's radio. "Collins, we've got Mitchell's deleted files. He's been working with Marcus Rodriguez for years. There's a whole network." "Later," Sarah cut him off. "Get to Mitchell's clinic. Officer Chen's K9 is in danger. And send CSU to process Angela's car. The real medical records are inside." Rain hammered against the windshield as Sarah sped through Atlanta's streets, every second marked by Max's labored breathing in the back. Angela worked over him, administering emergency treatment, while rattling off everything she knew about Mitchell's operation. "The compound is designed to fool routine tests. Mitchell perfected it in Miami. That's why the dogs seemed healthy until suddenly they weren't. Marcus provided the chemistry. Mitchell provided the medical cover." Angela's voice was clinical, focused, but her hands shook. "I've been documenting everything, gathering evidence. But I couldn't move too fast or they'd know." Sarah's phone buzzed. A message from Rodriguez. "Mitchell's gone, clinic's locked down, Chen's already inside." "How long until the treatment would start?" Sarah pressed down harder on the accelerator. "Standard procedure is immediate administration." Angela checked Max's pupils. "His body temperature's still rising. We need to flush the compound from his system." They screeched into the parking lot of a small veterinary clinic on the outskirts of town. The sign read, "Closed," but Angela quickly punched in a security code. Inside, the facility was state-of-the-art, evidence of her continued work with police dogs, albeit from the shadows. "Get him on the table," Angela ordered, switching into full doctor mode. She moved with practiced efficiency, hooking Max up to monitors and starting an IV. "I developed this countermeasure, but I've never had to use it on a dog this far along." Sarah's phone lit up again. Rodriguez. "SWAT team in position. Chen and Rex located. Mitchell spotted entering back entrance." Sarah looked at Max, then at her phone, torn between staying with her partner and stopping Mitchell from claiming another victim. Angela met her eyes. "Go. I've got him. This is what I've trained for. If anything happens to him, I know." Angela's voice was steel. "I've spent 2 years preparing for this moment, watching them hurt dogs while I gathered evidence, playing along while I developed the antidote. Max will make it." Sarah squeezed Max's paw one last time. His eyes flickered open briefly, focusing on her with fierce intelligence despite the fever. "Stay strong, partner. That's an order." Outside, the storm had intensified. Sarah's cruiser cut through sheets of rain as she raced toward Mitchell's clinic. Her radio crackled with SWAT updates. They had the building surrounded, but Mitchell had barricaded himself in the treatment room with Officer Chen and Rex. "He knows we're coming?" Rodriguez's voice came through. "Says he'll put Rex down if we breach." Sarah thought of the clinic's layout, of all the details she'd noticed earlier. The security keypads, the heavy locks, the separate building out back. Then she remembered something else. Max's reaction to a specific spot in the examination room. "The cabinets," she radioed, "the ones with the heavy-duty locks. That's where he keeps the compound. He'll need access to continue his plan." "Collins, we can't risk—" "Trust me." Sarah's hands tightened on the steering wheel. I know dogs. And I know Max. He was trying to tell us something about those cabinets. She could see the clinic now. Emergency lights painting the rain red and blue. SWAT teams crouched behind vehicles, weapons trained on the building. Sarah pulled up and jumped out, rain soaking her uniform instantly. Her phone vibrated, a text from Angela. Max responding to treatment. Fever dropping. Get this bastard. Sarah smiled grimly as she checked her weapon. Max was fighting his battle. Now it was time for her to end this war. Rodriguez, she called out to her partner who was coordinating with SWAT. Remember what Max did in Miami when we found that hidden drug lab? Rodriguez's eyes lit up with understanding. The ventilation system. Sarah nodded, rain streaming down her face. Every vet clinic has one. And Mitchell's been so careful about his security. She pointed to a subtle pattern of vents along the building's edge. But he forgot about Max's nose. Time was running out. Somewhere in the clinic, Rex faced the same fate Mitchell had planned for Max. But Sarah had something Mitchell didn't, the complete trust of a partner who'd proven time and again that his instincts were never wrong. She turned to the SWAT commander. I need a team ready to breach on my signal, and someone get me a blueprint of this building's ventilation system. The race wasn't over, but this time Sarah wasn't just running to save one dog. She was running to end the threat to every K9 unit in the country. And somewhere across town, fighting for his life, Max was counting on her to finish what they'd started. The ventilation blueprints glowed on Sarah's tablet as rain pounded against the SWAT van. She traced the path from the external vent to the treatment room where Mitchell held Officer Chen and Rex hostage. In her earpiece, Rodriguez was coordinating teams around the building's perimeter. Cameras show Mitchell's getting agitated, Rodriguez reported. He's prepared 2 syringes. Chen's trying to keep him talking, but time's running out. Sarah's phone lit up with a message from Angela. Max stabilized. Antidote working. Be careful. Mitchell has nothing left to lose. Lightning flashed, illuminating the clinic's modern facade. Sarah remembered Max's reaction to the cabinets, his instinctive warning. The blueprints confirmed what her partner had sensed, a hidden storage space behind the examination room, accessible only through those locked cabinets. Team 1 in position, crackled her radio, awaiting your signal. Sarah switched channels. Officer Chen, status update? He's ranting about corruption in K9 units. Chen's voice was steady despite the situation. Says the dogs are becoming too effective, threatening his organization's operations. He's trying to protect me, but he's not looking good. Mitchell already gave him something. Sarah clenched her fists. Another dog drugged. Another partner at risk. Hold on. Keep him talking about Miami, we're coming in. The SWAT commander laid out the final pieces of equipment. Breach charges, smoke grenades, tactical gear. Your call, Collins. But if Mitchell sees us coming, he won't. Sarah checked her weapon, because he'll be focused on what he thinks is his only escape route. Rodriguez's voice came through again. Marcus Rodriguez's men spotted approaching from the south. 3 vehicles heavily armed. Right on schedule, Sarah muttered. Mitchell would be expecting his backup, not realizing they'd identified and intercepted most of Marcus's force at the park. Everyone in position. On my mark. Sarah moved through the rain to the external vent, remembering a similar night in Miami. That time, Max had led them through maintenance tunnels to uncover a hidden drug lab. Now, she would use those same instincts he'd taught her, finding the path others had overlooked. Start the breach sequence, she ordered, removing the vent cover. 30 seconds. The first explosion came from the clinic's rear entrance, a deliberate distraction. Sarah heard Mitchell's startled shout through Chen's open radio line. A second blast hit the front doors as Sarah slipped into the ventilation shaft, the sound covering her movement. Multiple suspects entering the building. Rodriguez's voice carried through the chaos. Mitchell's getting desperate. Sarah crawled through the narrow space, following the path she'd memorized. Below her, gunfire erupted as SWAT engaged Marcus's men. Mitchell would assume they were fighting their way toward him. He'd be wrong. Through Chen's radio, she heard Mitchell's rising panic. It's over. The whole operation's compromised. Your dog is just the first. We'll eliminate every K9 unit that threatens us. Target the cabinets, Sarah transmitted to the breach team. 3, 2, 1. The explosion rocked the treatment room just as Sarah kicked through the ceiling vent. She dropped into the chaos as smoke filled the air, her trajectory placing her directly between Mitchell and his prepared syringes. "Federal agents!" Mitchell screamed, reaching for what he thought was his backup radio. "I need immediate—" "They're not coming." Sarah leveled her weapon at his chest. "Your friend Marcus is a little busy at the park. Seems my partner had something to say about your diagnosis." Mitchell's professional facade cracked. In the smoke-filled room, his eyes darted between Sarah, the demolished cabinets revealing his hidden storage room, and Officer Chen protecting Rex. "You don't understand. These dogs, they're too powerful. They're destroying everything we built. Miami was just the start. We had to stop them." "You tried to kill my partner." Sarah's voice was ice. "That was your mistake." Mitchell lunged for the syringes. Sarah squeezed the trigger, her shot throwing him back against the wall. The syringes shattered on the floor as SWAT teams flooded the room. "Clear! Suspect down! Officer Chen and K9 secured." Sarah kept her weapon trained on Mitchell as Rodriguez entered, medical team right behind him. "Angela's sending the antidote formula for Rex," she told Chen. "He'll make it." Mitchell laughed through bloody teeth as they cuffed him. "You think this ends with me? Marcus has operations in every major city. More clinics, more vets, more ways to eliminate threats. You can't protect them all." Sarah's phone buzzed. A photo from Angela. Max sitting up, alert, his eyes bright and focused. Below it, a message. "He's ready for action. And Marcus just arrived at my clinic, looking for his trusted veterinarian to help him escape." Sarah smiled coldly at Mitchell. "Actually, we can. Because, while you were busy with us, every K9 unit in the state was mobilizing. Right now, Marcus Rodriguez is walking into a trap, led by a very special dog who has a score to settle." Mitchell's face went pale as understanding dawned. Outside, more sirens approached through the storm. The raid that had started with one dog's warning was about to end with the takedown of an entire criminal empire. "You should have learned from Miami," Sarah said, watching Mitchell's world crumble. "Never underestimate a K9 officer and their partner, especially not Max." Thunder rolled overhead as Sarah stepped out into the rain, leaving Mitchell to face justice. Her phone lit up with updates. Rex responding to treatment. Marcus Rodriguez in custody. Evidence recovered from multiple clinics. A network exposed and crumbling. But only one message mattered. "Angela, your partner's waiting. He says it's time to finish this." Sarah smiled as she climbed into her cruiser. Max was right. They had an empire to bring down, and she wouldn't want any other partner by her side for what came next. Marcus Rodriguez stepped into Angela's clinic, water dripping from his expensive suit. 2 bodyguards flanked him, their eyes scanning the dimly lit reception area. The storm outside had intensified, rain hammering against the windows. "Dr. Rodriguez," he called out, using the name his sister had adopted after Miami. "I believe we need to discuss your recent indiscretions." Lightning flashed, illuminating the empty waiting room. Marcus moved deeper into the clinic, past vacant examination rooms. In the last room, a single lamp cast shadows across medical equipment. "I trusted you to maintain our arrangement," Marcus continued, his voice carrying an edge of threat. "Mitchell's operation was essential to our success, and now—" He gestured to one of his men to check the back rooms. "Things change, brother." Angela's voice came from the darkness. She stepped into the light, her face set with determination. "I watched you destroy everything our parents believed in. Watched you corrupt the very system they served. Every dog you eliminated, every partner you betrayed. I documented it all." Marcus's hand moved toward his jacket. "Sentimentality was always your weakness. Those dogs, they're just tools. Replaceable. Like Mitchell. Like you'll be if you don't reconsider your position." "You're wrong." Angela's voice remained steady. "They're partners, protectors. Everything you turned your back on when you chose power over principle. A low growl rumbled through the room. Marcus spun around as Max emerged from the shadows, tactical vest gleaming, every muscle taut and ready. The bodyguard, reaching for the back door, found himself face to face with Sarah's drawn weapon. "Marcus Rodriguez," Sarah announced. "You're under arrest for conspiracy, drug trafficking, and attempted murder of police K9 units." Marcus laughed, but there was an edge of panic in it. "You have nothing. Mitchell will never testify. My lawyers will. We have everything." Sarah nodded toward Max's vest camera, its red light blinking. "Every word you just said, every confession Mitchell made, every record Angela kept, it's over." The clinic erupted into chaos. Marcus's remaining bodyguard drew his weapon, but Max was faster. The Belgian Malinois launched himself across the room, taking the man down with practiced precision. Sarah engaged the second guard, while Angela sealed the exits. Marcus bolted for a side door, but he'd forgotten about Miami, forgotten how Max could anticipate a suspect's movements, cut off escape routes. The dog intercepted him with surgical accuracy, driving him back towards Sarah. "Down!" Sarah commanded as police units swarmed the building. Max held his position, eyes locked on Marcus, as tactical teams secured the scene. Rodriguez looked at his sister as they cuffed him. "Why? We could have had everything. Power, influence, control over every major city's law enforcement." "We had everything," Angela replied. "Family, honor, purpose. You threw it away for power." She scratched Max behind the ears. "These partners showed me what real loyalty means." Dawn broke over Atlanta as Sarah led Max out of the clinic. Crime scene units processed evidence from Mitchell's network while Rodriguez's empire crumbled. Across the city, K9 units gathered at headquarters, safe from the threat that had stalked them. "Officer Collins." The police chief approached, Rex walking beside Officer Chen behind him. "Hell of a case. Mitchell singing like a bird, implicating corrupt officials in 3 states. Rodriguez's operation is finished." Sarah watched Max and Rex greet each other, both fully recovered thanks to Angela's intervention. "It was a team effort, sir. We had help." She nodded toward Angela, who was coordinating with the police veterinary unit. "Dr. Rodriguez has been offered full immunity," the chief confirmed. "Her evidence, combined with Max's recordings, gives us everything we need for convictions. Plus, she'll be taking over as head of our K9 medical unit. No more outsourcing veterinary care. Every dog will have the protection they deserve." Sarah crouched beside Max, checking him over one final time. His eyes were clear, his movements strong. No trace remained of Mitchell's drugs. "Ready to get back to work, partner?" Max's tail wagged once, decisively. Across the parking lot, Angela watched them with a smile. She'd lost a brother, but found something more valuable, a mission to protect the partnerships that kept the city safe. "Collins," Rodriguez called from the transport vehicle, "this isn't finished. There are others who think like me, who see these dogs as threats to their operations. You can't watch them all." Sarah met his gaze. "You're right, there are others." She patted Max's tactical vest. "And we'll be ready for them, every single one." The morning sun broke through the clouds as Sarah and Max headed for their patrol car. News vans were arriving, eager to cover the story of corruption and redemption, of a criminal empire brought down by the unshakable bond between officers and their K9 partners. "Good boy," Sarah whispered to Max as they pulled away. In the rear-view mirror, she watched Angela directing the setup of her new K9 medical center. The future looked brighter, safer for the partners who patrolled Atlanta's streets. Max settled into his usual position, alert and ready. They had a city to protect, future threats to face, but for now, justice had been served. The partnership that had started 6 years ago had grown stronger through every challenge, every case, every moment of trust between handler and dog. Sarah smiled as they merged into morning traffic. Whatever came next, she had the best partner in the department watching her back, and Max had proven once again that sometimes the most powerful weapon against corruption wasn't a gun or a badge. It was the unshakable bond between a K9 officer and their loyal friend.